On September 27, 1992, the television program Rugrats aired the episode The Big House, in which Tommy Pickles engineers a heist to escape from daycare. 4 days later, on October 1st, 1992, The Simpsons premiered A Streetcar Named Marge, featuring a subplot where Maggie Simpson engineers her own daycare heist. Both feature authoritarian daycare employees who take strict, no-nonsense approaches to their work, and both were produced by the animation studio Klasky Csupo. Is this just a coincidence? Were The Simpsons inspired by their Nickelodeon baby brother, and in those 4 days hurriedly wrote, storyboarded, and animated an entire subplot? Did The Simpsons do it, or was it Rugrats the entire time? Alright, this one is just plain eerie in terms of how everything lines up. Here we have an example of two of the most popular animated series at the time, both doing prison escape parodies with babies. And they aired 4 days apart. And not only were both of these Klasky Csupo productions, A Streetcar Named Marge is literally the very last Klasky Csupo episode to air. In addition, the Rugrats episode was written by co-series creator Paul Germain. He worked on several Gracie Films productions in the past, including The Tracy Ullman Show, and as a co-producer for a couple Season 1 episodes. Paul Germain went on to create Recess, which I covered last time in this series. Clearly, The Simpsons had it out for this guy. But we'll worry about that production stuff later. What we really want to know is whether the content of these two episodes are all that similar. Let's find out. First off, we gotta talk about these two institutions and how the babies arrive there. In A Streetcar Named Marge, this is merely the subplot, as Llewellyn Sinclair refers Marge to his sister's daycare to watch her while she has play practice. In the case of Rugrats, the Big House is a full segment, the first short in this half-hour programming block. We don't know why Diggi is dropping off Tommy at this unfamiliar daycare. I'm guessing she doesn't trust her father-in-law to watch him, considering Tommy got out like 20 times in Season 1. Or maybe Didi's performing with her hunky, shirtless neighbor, who knows. What we do know is that Golden Apple Daycare takes security extremely seriously. This playtime counselor, Sandra, very ominously tells them, "There's never been an escape from Golden Apple Daycare." She makes sure to get in Didi's face to make her feel both reassured and creeped out. Sandra works with Jonathan, their fussy nutritionist, and Bob, whose job is to change all the diapers, as well as hating life. With all the security cameras and monitors, Rugrats is clearly underlining the technological angle, the cold sterility of this place. Whereas the Simpsons bent is ideological in nature. The Ayn Rand School of Thoughts is dedicated to raising children in the objectivist school of thought, so they can grow up to become train-obsessed pedants confused by the concept of altruism. Ms. Sinclair also presumably runs this establishment alone, because having an employee is collectivism. But she must be doing something right, because hers is the only daycare in Springfield not currently under investigation by the state. Like Didi, Marge is similarly weirded out by this overzealous daycare lady. Despite some differences, the overall effect is the same. Both Maggie and Tommy are presented with a super strict environment to contend with. In Maggie's case, her main challenge is presented immediately. The moment Marge departs, she takes Maggie's precious pacifier away. I am rapidly running out of objectivism references, so I'm assuming she believes that this simple luxury will make them weak. Or she just hates listening to that sucking constantly, like the Season 1 Simpsons writers. Now Tommy's goal isn't immediately clear to him. This other kid, Wise Guy, welcomes him and introduces him to the colorful cast of characters we will never see again. This kid is Builder because she builds with blocks. This is Doughboy because he loves Play-Doh. Crybaby can fake cry on command. And Big Justin is a larger than average Justin. Big Justin, Rugrats' Mr. Burns equivalent, immediately picks a fight with Tommy over his ball, causing a wagon snafu that lands him in timeout for 5 minutes. I love how much Rugrats plays up the seriousness of a 5-minute timeout, really captures that psychological torture of solitary. Yikes, Tommy. It's only after this cruel punishment where Tommy resolves to break out of this horrible place. Maggie also finds herself in timeout, this solitary confinement, but hers is the direct result of her goal in getting back her pacifier. During nap time, she gathers up her allies, builds a makeshift tower, and tries getting it through the slits of the locker. Unlike Rugrats, The Simpsons isn't interested in exploring the social dynamics of the babies in the daycare. This isn't the kind of show that's going to have them talking to each other. It's clear that Maggie made some kind of connection with unnamed baby boy and unnamed baby girl, as they immediately follow her when prompted. Maggie is just that naturally charismatic as a leader. Now that both of our protagonists have landed in timeout, it's time to execute their heist proper. Tommy formulates an elaborate plan using each of the kids' special skills that they established. Crybaby will cry and distract the adults. Doughboy will make a key out of Play-Doh. Builder will build a tower out of blocks. Big Justin will stand on top. And Wise Guy will look cool and sneaky. Tommy's plan does resemble Maggie's original idea, albeit with more complexity. Just stack up a bunch of stuff to reach your goal. At least give Tommy credit for recognizing, oh yeah, we'll need to figure out how to open the door. Now, to be fair to Maggie, her plan also has complexity, in that each of these kids serve as lookouts, with a chain of signals indicating when Miss Sinclair is returning. But Maggie's is more of a solo infiltration mission. She rigged up this Krusty doll so she could swoop in from the ceiling to steal those keys. Look at how effortlessly she shoots this grappling plunger, clearly foreshadowing her shooting of Mr. Burns. In the end, both Maggie and Tommy do achieve their goals, but the outcomes are played slightly differently. In Maggie's case, she triumphantly opens the door and rains pacifiers upon the crowd. The babies presumably overwhelm Ms. Sinclair and take over the daycare. Or she just said screw it and went to her brother's play. In Tommy's case, the Play-Doh key doesn't work. It's too soft to properly turn the lock. But Diggi suddenly appears, ready to take him home at the end of the day. So from the kids' point of view, Tommy did break out and left them behind. But don't worry, here's Big Justin's mom to pick him up as well. So really, Tommy's plan didn't actually achieve anything, unlike Maggie. It's not like Sandra learned the error of her ways of feeding the babies crappy health cookies. I think that's the key difference in looking at these two examples. Yeah, the Rugrats story is a full 11-minute segment, whereas The Simpsons is a subplot that lasts 3 or 4 minutes? Of course the Rugrats version is going to be expanded upon by meeting more of the characters. But the biggest difference is the point of view of the two series. Rugrats is fundamentally a very different kind of show than The Simpsons, structuring all of its stories from the baby's point of view. Theirs is a world where one afternoon feels like forever, and your mom returning does feel like you broke out of the place. I do think the prison metaphor breaks down a bit, since presumably these kids come back day after day. They're not trapped there. But I get what they're going for from the baby POV, that the new kid Tommy did achieve something. Like, we adults look at the Golden Apple Daycare, and it's not that bad of a place, just a bit stuffy and strict. But to a baby, a 5-minute timeout is the worst thing in the world. The Simpsons want the audience to really dislike this place. There's no POV about it. It's more of a third-person omniscient show, where we get the overarching holistic view of the situation. They literally have Ms. Sinclair calling Maggie a poor little dummard, playing up the villain role perfectly. The Rugrats go for a slice of life, the Simpsons go for the cinematic heist. As for the actual story composition, we do see a similar sort of outline in both examples. Both characters are presented a super strict environment, both get in trouble and end up in timeout at the midpoint, both try building and climbing a tower, both of their main obstacles are unlocking a door. The stories are both parroting prisoner movies like The Great Escape. Rugrats through the more traditional prison dialogue type scenes, and The Simpsons more stylistically via the marching soundtrack. Their actual goals do differ considerably, with Maggie trying to get her pacifier back and Tommy trying to break out of there. And Maggie's mission is way more laser focused. She makes 2 attempts at it, whereas Tommy only decides to escape after being punished. And of course, Rugrats is full of baby dialogue and develops its cast of characters. I'm sure this Charlie Brown baby had a great rapport with Maggie. So, on my patented 1 to 5 butter scale, with a score of 1 denoting completely different stories, and 5 being a total ripoff, I'm giving this a score of 3 butters. I could honestly go in either direction in grading this one. I think if both Maggie and Tommy's end goals were the same, that they were both trying to break out, there's a strong case for 4 or even 5 Butters. But despite featuring several similar elements and a similar sort of parody, the outcomes do shine a light on how different The Simpsons and Rugrats are as a series. I think what makes this case truly interesting, and why I want to look at it, is the timing of the episodes, airing 4 days apart, and the Klasky Chupo link between them. Now I want to be clear, because these videos are meant to be silly and shitposty, and not actually conspiratorial. I don't think The Simpsons nor Rugrats actually stole from each other here, and that some shady shenanigan happened at Klasky Chupo. These comparisons are fun, and I want to be clear, this is not an accusation. I'm not even entirely sure which was produced first. This was a Season 3 holdover, so it was presumably animated in the previous run. Rugrats got renewed in 1991 with the success of its first season. So without the exact details, it's just wild speculation. I feel like that's how baseless accusations get thrown around, where you can piece together some motive and opportunity and automatically assume the worst of people. Of course a show about babies would do this plot, and it's a natural Maggie idea as well. This feels like one of those parallel thought moments, where 2 different productions thought of a similar funny parody to do. The Great Escape nostalgia must have been in the air in the early 90s. So we must conclude that while The Simpsons certainly had its own spin on the concept, Rugrats kinda sorta did it first. Just barely. Or maybe The Simpsons did it first. Let me know in the comments what you think of these 2 episodes and how similar you think they are. For all you 90s kids out there, did you ever lump these episodes together? Also, let me know if there are any other TV shows that may have beaten The Simpsons to the punch. You guys have given me so many cool suggestions, and I've been having a blast looking into them. In addition to the previous examples, we have the Belcher family getting lost during a camping trip, Roger Smith assuming the absolute worst of his new neighbors, and a masked character is throwing pies at the Smurfs. And of course, there's always SpongeBob and Garfield lurking in the shadows. Let me know where we should go next. As always, thanks for watching.